Hi, today we are going to see Islamic reforms. Okay, after the suppression of Great Revolt of 1857, Indian Muslims looked to Western culture with suspicion. So, in 1857, Muslims looked to Western culture with suspicion. They were suspicious about the Western culture. Okay, they didn't believe the Western culture completely. They were doubtful about it. The community feared that Western education, Western culture, and Western ideas would endanger their religion. So, what Muslims thought were Western education, Western culture, and Western ideas would would endanger their religion. Therefore, only a small section of Muslims accepted the new avenues for modern education. So what happened was only small section of Muslims accepted the modern education. Consequently, Indian Muslims as a community lagged behind in comparison to the Hindu elite of various parts of India. Then Indian Muslims they they were lagging behind the Hindus in various parts of India. Okay. Now the first person we are going to see is Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. As Indian Muslims steadily lost ground in education, in the public services, and in general leadership in India, there was a realization that there was no alternative but to accept modern education if the community was to go on the path of progress. Okay, so what happened was these Indian Muslims lost their ground in education. They could not work in public services. They lost leadership in India, general leadership. So they realized that there was no option other than accepting the modern education. So only then the community will be in progress. Okay, this is a picture of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. You can see here, he is Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. The man who gave life and soul to it was Sir Syed Ahmad Khan from 1817 to 1898. So he believed that if the Muslim community should survive, then modern education should definitely be given to the community. This was what he believed. So he gave his life and soul to it. Born in Delhi into a noble Muslim family, Syed Ahmad Khan thought that lack of education, especially modern education, had harmed the Muslims greatly and kept them backward. So he was born in Delhi to a Muslim family. He understood that the lack of education, which is the modern education, harmed the Muslims greatly and it kept them backward. So he exhorted the Muslims to accept Western science and take up government services. So he wanted Muslims to learn Western science and take up government services. He founded a scientific society and translated many English books, especially science books, into Urdu. He translated English books into Urdu so that the Muslim community people can read it in a better way. He believed that the interest of the Muslims would be best served if they bonded with the British government rather than pitch in with the rising nationalist movement. So he also believed that the Muslims should bond with British government so that they can raise in their lives. So he advised the Muslims to take to English education and to concentrate on it. Though he converted the books into Urdu language, he advised the Muslims to take English education and to concentrate on it. Aligarh movement. Syed Ahmad Khan's movement, the Aligarh movement, is so called because it was centered around the Aligarh movement and Anglo-Oriental College founded by him in 1875, which is a landmark in the history of Indian Muslim education. Okay, so this is Aligarh. He started this Aligarh movement because he started the university called which is the Anglo-Oriental College called Aligarh Muslim University. So you can see the picture. This is the Aligarh Muslim University. He founded it in the year 1875. It is the landmark in the history of Indian Muslim education. The college was raised to the status of a university in 1920. Aligarh produced a huge body of intelligentsia over successive generations who played a key role in public life. So he gave rise to this college, this university gave rise to many intelligent successive generations, and they played an important role in public life. Next comes Deoband movement. Deoband was a revivalist movement organized by the Orthodox Muslim ulema with the twin objectives of propagating the pure teachings of the Quran and the Hadith, as well as encouraging the spirit of jihad against the foreign and un-Islamic elements. So next was the Deoband movement, and there were two main objectives, twin objectives. First one was to propagate pure teachings of Quran and the Hadith, and second one was encouraging the spirit of jihad against un-Islamic elements. The ulema, under the leadership of Muhammad Qasim Banotawi, duration 1832 to 80, and Rashid Ahmad Gangotri, duration 1828 to 1905, founded the school at Deoband in the Saharanpur district of the Uttar Pradesh in 1866. So these two persons, along with ulema, they founded the school in Deoband in Saharanpur district of Uttar Pradesh in 1866. The school curricula shut out English education and Western culture. So the English education and Western culture was completely suppressed in the school curriculum. The instruction imparted was an original Islamic religion, and the aim was moral and religious regeneration of the Muslim community. So the instructions, everything was in Urdu, and it was an original Islamic religion, and the school's aim was moral and religious regeneration of Muslim community. This was their main motto. The Deoband school did not prepare its students for government jobs, but for the preaching of Islamic faith. They did not look for the betterment of the children in the society, or in getting government jobs or becoming successful in their lives, but their motto was to preach Islamic faith. In politics, the Deoband school welcomed the formation of the Indian National Congress in 1885. In politics, this Deoband school welcomed the formation of Indian National Congress in 1855. In 1888, the Deoband ulema issued a religious decree, fatwa, against Syed Ahmad Khan's organization called the United Patriotic Association and the Muhammadan Anglo-Oriental Association. So they filed a petition against Syed Ahmad Khan, because their motto, Deoband's motto and Aligarh movement motto, both were different. He strived for giving education and for giving government jobs to the children, but to the students. But here they only concentrated on bringing Islamic faith among the students. So this was the difference, right? So they were against Syed Ahmad Khan's organization. It is said that the Deoband ulema were mainly influenced by their determination to oppose Sir Syed Ahmad's activities. Okay, and it's also believed that the Deoband ulema, their main, they gave their complete determination in opposing Sir Syed Ahmad activities. Maulana Muhammad ul Hasan became the new Deoband leader. The Jamaat ul Ulema, Council of Theologians, led by him, gave a concrete shape to Hassan's ideas of protection of the religious and political rights of the Muslims in the overall context of Indian unity. Then later, Maulana Muhammad ul Hassan became the Deoband leader, and he also wanted to give religious and political rights of the Muslims. He wanted, his ideas were to give religious and political rights of the Muslims. He expanded the rights of the Muslims to Indian unity. Okay. Next is Parsi reform movement. In the middle of the 19th century, the reform activities of the educated Parsis, the Zoroastrians who had fled from Iran in the 10th century in the face of religious persecution, began in Mumbai. So in the middle of 19th century, what happened was the reform activities of the educated Parsis. Parsis are the people who fled from Iran in the 10th century. So that began in Mumbai. Fardanji Navroji founded the Rahnumai Mazdaisnan Sabha, Parsis Reform Society is the meaning. In 1851, Rast Goftar, the truth teller, was the main voice of the movement. The leaders of the Sabha criticized elaborated ceremonies at betrothals, marriages, and funerals. They opposed both infant marriage and the use of astrology. So these Parsis, they opposed infant marriage, which is not child marriage. Even lesser than child is called infant. A kid is called infant. The infant marriage and use of astrology were being opposed. Behramji Malabari organized a campaign for legislation against the practice of child marriage. The community produced many leaders such as Feroz Shah Mehta and Din Shah Wacha, who played a big role in the early Congress. So the community produced many leaders like Feroz Shah Mehta and Din Shah Wacha, who played a big role in the early Congress. Next is the Sikh reform movement. Nirankaris and Namdaris. The wave of reform movements did not leave any community untouched. Among the Sikhs of Punjab there were attempts. So the reform movement did not stick to a particular community, a particular religion. It touched all the community. Among the Sikhs of Punjab, there were attempts to reform. Baba Dayal Das, founder of the Nirankari movement, stressed the worship of God as Nirankar. So, Baba Dayal Das was the founder of this Nirankari movement. He stressed the worship of God as Nirankar. Worshipping of God is called as Nirankar. Formless, idolless, formless. Rejection of idols, rejection of rituals associated with the idolatry, reverence for the authority of Guru Nanak and of the Adi Granth formed the essence of his teachings. So rejection of idols, rejection of rituals associated with the idols, and reverence for the authority of Guru Nanak and of the Adi Granth formed the essence of his teachings. So these were his teachings. He reiterated the prohibition on meat eating and liquor consumption. So he was opposing. He prohibited meat eating and liquor consumption. The Namdari movement, founded by Baba Ram Singh, was another socio-religious movement among the Sikhs. The Namdaris insisted on wearing the symbols of Sikhism except the kirpan, which means sword. So they except the sword, they followed Sikhism. Okay. Instead, Baba Ram Singh wanted his followers to carry a lati. It considered both men and women equal and accepted widow remarriage. It prohibited the dowry system and child marriage. So lati was carried by everyone, by his followers. Men and women were treated equal. Widow remarriage were accepted, and dowry system, child marriage were prohibited. In the wake of the gathering influence of Arya Samaj and the Christian missionaries, the Singh Sabha of Amritsar was established. Singh Sabha of Amritsar was established. Its main objective was to restore the purity of Sikhism. The Singh Sabha's main objective was to restore the purity of Sikhism. With the support of British, it established Khalsa College for the Sikhs in Amritsar. So for the Sikhs, a unique college called Khalsa College was established. Singh Sabha was a forerunner of Akali movement. Next, we are going to see the social reformers of Tamil Nadu. Ramalinga Swamigal, popularly known as Vallalar, Ramalinga Swamigal or Ramalinga Adigal, duration 1823 to 1874, was born in Marudur, a village near Chidambaram. Ramalinga Swamigal, also called Vallalar or Ramalinga Adigal, his duration was from 1823 to 1874. He was born in Marudur, a village near Chidambaram. After his father's death, his family moved to his brother's house at Chennai. Despite having no formal education, he gained immense scholarship. So Ramalinga Adigal gained immense scholarship. Ramalinga emphasized the bonds of responsibility and compassion between living beings. So he understood the responsibility and compassion between living beings. He expressed the view that those who lack compassion for suffering beings are hard-hearted, their wisdom clouded. Compassion means one should think about another, one should always be there for another. If you do not have compassion, you are hard-hearted and wisdom clouded. He showed his compassion and mercy on all living beings, including plants. This he called Jiva Karunya. He showed his compassion to all living beings, including plants, and he called this as Jiva Karunya. He established the Samarasa Veda Sanmarga Sangam in 1865, and it was renamed Samarasa Suddha Sanmarga Satya Sangha, which means Society for Pure Truth in Universal Selfhood. Ramalinga also established a free feeding house for everyone, irrespective of caste, at Vadalur in 1867. In the wake of a terrible famine in South India in 1866. Famine means lack of water, a dry land, like drought. His voluminous songs were compiled and published under the title Thiruvarutpa, Songs of Grace. His radical views deeply disturbed Saiva orthodoxy, who condemned his writings as Marutpa, Songs of Ignorance. You can see he is he is Ramalinga Adigal. This is Ramalinga Adigal, and this is the Satyagnana Sabha, which is in Vadalur. Okay. Next is Vaikunda Swamigal. Vaikunda Swami, duration 1809 to 1851, one of the earliest crusaders for social justice in South India, was born at Sastan Koil Vilai, the present Samitopal, a village near Kanyakumari. His original name, Mudchudum Perumal, was changed to Muthukutti by his parents due to objection raised by the upper caste Hindus. So his name was Mudichodum Perumal. So they changed the name to Muthukutti because the upper caste Hindus objected his name, Mudichodum Perumal. This is the picture of Vaikunda Swamigal. Okay. So Muthukutti had no opportunity to have any systematic school education but acquired knowledge of various religious texts. So he did not go to school and learn a systematic education, but he had the religious text. He preached the ideas of equality and advocated the rights of depressed class people in the face of stiff opposition from upper caste as well as the princely state of Travancore. So he fought for the equality of people, the rights of depressed class people in Travancore. Vaikunda Swamigal criticized the rule of British and the rule of Raja of Travancore as the rule of white devils and black devils respectively. So, like the British ruled India, the rule of Raja was also like the black devil rule. He criticized like that. He visited Tiruchendur temple and experienced a new vision. Calling himself Vaikundar, he requested the people to give up all the irrelevant rites and rituals in their worship. So suddenly he once went to the Tiruchendur temple and he called himself as Vaikundar, and he requested the people to give up all their irrelevant rites and rituals while worshipping. His preachings against the prevailing religious order brought about a considerable change in the attitude of the lower caste people. So his preachings brought a change in the attitude, a positive change in the attitude of the lower caste people. Then in 1833, Vaikundar commenced his meditation at Samitopal for the abolition of caste differences and social integration of the society. During this period, he led a life of a hermit. So he commenced a meditation. He did a meditation for abolishing caste differences. In South Travancore, there were many restrictions on lower caste people, such as what they could wear and not wear. So in Travancore, the lower caste people were not allowed to wear certain clothes, and they were restricted only to wear certain clothes. So at a time when there was prohibition on certain sections on wearing headgear, he advocated the wearing of a turban in protest. So he advocated all the depressed class people to wear turban in a protest because they were not allowed to wear those. It gave a sense of honor to the oppressed people and offered a spirit of self-respect. So this gave self-honor and self-respect to the depressed class people. A new confidence was installed in the minds of his followers, and there was a confidence installed within his followers. Like the other contemporary reform movements of India in the 19th century, Vaikunda Swamigal condemned the worship of idols. He too opposed idolatry worship. The low caste people had no temples for their gods. They erected small pyramids of mud or bricks in their honor, plastered and whitewashed. He considered this kind of worship as an uncivilized custom. Since there were no temples for their gods, they built small pyramids in mud and they did puja for bricks. But uh, what he said was Vaikunda Swamigal. He believed that this was an uncivilized custom. The people sacrificed goats, cocks, and hens. He condemned these religious customs and campaigned against animal sacrifice. So he opposed animal sacrifice for religious customs. Vaikunta Swamigal founded the Samajam to unite all the people of various castes. He organized interdining to accomplish it. Even though he was imprisoned by the Maharaja of Travancore, he never gave up his principles. His followers called him respectfully as Ayya, which means father. His cult was also known as Ayya Vadi, the path of Ayya. His message emancipated the people from the unjust social customs and superstitious beliefs. So, his message enabled people to give up their customs and superstitious beliefs. His ideas are collected into a text called Akhila Thirattu. So next, finally, we are going to talk about Ayodhi Dasar. Pandita Ayodhi Dasar, duration 1845 to 1914, was a radical Tamil scholar, writer, Siddha medicine practitioner, journalist, and socio-political activist. So this is him, Ayodhi Dasar, picture. He was born in Chennai. He was fluent in Tamil, English, Sanskrit, and Pali languages. He initiated a new knowledge practice by using journalism as a tool to make inroads into the print public sphere. He used journalism to spread knowledge, which was hitherto an upper caste domain. He campaigned for social justice and worked for the emancipation of the untouchables from the caste clutches. He too didn't like casteism and the way untouchables were treated. He didn't like that. He worked for the construction of a casteless identity and castigated caste hegemony and untouchability. So, those days people were called by caste. People were, there was an hierarchy and people were called with caste. It was an identity to them. So, he worked for a construction of a casteless identity. He considered education as an important tool for empowerment and became the driving force behind the establishment of several schools for the untouchables in Tamil Nadu. So he worked for empowerment, education empowerment for all caste people, and he became the driving force for several schools for untouchables in Tamil Nadu. Pandita Ayodhi Dasar founded the Advaitananda Sabha to raise the voice for the temple entry of the untouchables. So he founded this Advaitananda Sabha to raise his voice to allow untouchables into entry. In 1882, John Ratnam and Ayodhi Dasar established a movement called Dravida Kazhagam and launched a magazine called Dravida Pandian in 1885. So John Ratnam and Ayodhya established a movement called Dravida Kazhagam and a magazine called Dravida Pandian in 1885. He founded the Dravida Mahajana Sabha in 1891 and organized the first conference of the association at Nilgiris. He started a weekly journal, Oru Paisa Tamilan, in 1905 and published it until his demise in 1914. So he published his weekly journal, Oru Paisa Tamilan, from 1907 to 1914. Pandita Ayodhya was disappointed with the Hindu Dharma, which served as the basis for propagating and validating caste in Hindu society. He was disappointed with the Hindu Dharma because everything was served validating caste in Hindu society. Influenced by the Theosophist organizer Colonel H.S. Olcott, he went to Sri Lanka in 1898 and converted to Buddhism. So he didn't like, since he didn't like Hindu Dharma, he converted to Buddhist. He joined Buddhism. In the same year, he founded the Sakya Buddhist Society at Madras to construct the rational religious philosophy through Buddhist religion. So he founded the Sakya Buddhist Society in Madras to spread the philosophy of Buddhist religion. He argued that so-called untouchables were originally Buddhists who were stigmatized by Brahmanism. Okay, Buddhists were actually the untouchables who were considered as untouchables were Brahmins. So that he moved to Buddhism. He further constructed an alternative history through the interpretation of Tamil literature and folk traditions of Tamil from a Buddhist standpoint. So he became a Buddhist Tamilan. In addition, he stated that the revival of Buddhism could liberate the people from the evil of caste that afflicted the Hindu society. He also said that Buddhism will remove the evil of caste from the Hindu society. He called the untouchables Satipettam Atra Dravidar, casteless Dravidians, and urged them to register as casteless Dravidians in the census. So this was the role of Ayodhya. So we have ended up with the lesson. 5th unit in history is completed. Thank you.